Hello Dungeon Masters. In this video we will be discussing another magic item you could use in your own roleplay campaign. Instead of just giving you the item name and stats, we're going to provide the history or backstory of how the magic item came to be. This gives the item more flavour and you can share this backstory with your players or the one who's attuning to it. This might even give them more options for roleplay. I'm going to break this video into 3 parts. The item, the history or backstory, and the stats. Now just quickly, in the previous video, Aconite wasn't amused at the images I used for examples of the gauntlets and how they looked. Apparently it wouldn't really help the DM for description of how it would look. So instead, for this video, Aconite has created his own image for me to use. Let me know which one you prefer in the comments below. Mine or his? So without further ado, let's roll right into it. The item. The handle is ornately carved in a twisted fashion. This elegant dagger has a slender hilt that's ornately carved in the shape of 2 humanoids embracing, slightly covered by leather wrapping for the grip. The blade holds a sharp edge and a deadly tip. Tears drip from the hilt each full moon, and the sound of crying can be heard. The history or backstory. Once upon a time there was a young couple who fell madly in love and married. As a wedding present, the husband gave his wife an elegant stiletto dagger and asked her to keep it close for protection. They lived in a small village where life was peaceful until one day when a group of bandits attacked. The husband and many other villagers were working in the fields when the attack occurred. The wife, who was at home, grabbed the only weapon she had, stiletto dagger, and used it to defend herself and her home against 2 attackers. Although she managed to drive the attackers away, the village suffered great loss. The husband had been injured in the attack and soon discovered that the bandits had poisoned their arrow tips. Despite his best efforts, he grew sicker until finally he realised he was going to die. He requested that his wife use the stiletto dagger one last time, and with great reluctance, she fulfilled his wish. The wife spent the rest of her life in mourning, always carrying the dagger with her as a memento. On her deathbed, someone went to remove the dagger from her hand, but as soon as they touched it, they were overcome with enormous sense of grief and sadness. It transpired that the years of sorrow and loss had infused themselves into the blade, imbuing it with a powerful emotional charge. The dagger was left in the wife's hands and buried with her. However, at some point it was stolen from her grave. Legend has it that whoever holds the dagger is filled with an almost overwhelming amount of grief and sadness. When used, this sadness is transferred to the injured party. Despite many attempts to destroy the cursed weapon, the stiletto dagger had survived for generations, passing from owner to owner and leaving a trail of heartache in its wake. After the theft of the dagger from the wife's grave, it became a coveted item among treasure hunters and collectors. Many stories circulated about its power and the curse it carried. However, the truth behind the dagger was much darker than anyone could imagine. As the dagger changed hands over the years, it brought with it a great burden of sadness and sorrow. Those who held it found themselves overwhelmed with grief and regret, as if they were carrying the weight of all the sorrow of the world on their shoulders. The blade seemed to whisper to them, urging them to use it, to pass on their pain to someone else. One day, a young adventurer stumbled upon the dagger in an ancient tomb. Ignoring the warnings of the locals, she took the dagger. At first, she felt the weight of the blade's curse. As she journeyed on, she began to understand the true nature of the weapon. She realised that the dagger was not cursed, but was a vessel for sorrow and pain of all those who had ever held it. And while it had been used for violence and death, it could also be used for healing and redemption. The adventurer decided to take on the task of using the dagger to heal the broken-hearted and bring solace to those in pain. She travelled the world seeking out those who were in need of the dagger's power, and with each use, the dagger became lighter, and the whispering of the blade became softer. Eventually, the adventurer became known as Mercy's Edge. People would seek her out from far and wide, knowing that in her hands, the blade brought not death, but healing. And so the legend of the cursed Misericord dagger was turned on its head. It became a symbol of hope and redemption, a reminder that even the darkest of objects can be used for good. The stats. Misericord weapon, dagger. This blade grants the user the ability to cast Lesser Restoration once per long rest. Nothing to see. This stiletto is a knife with a long, narrow blade, designed mainly for stabbing but also easier to hide than most weapons. You get advantage on sleight of hand checks made to conceal this weapon on your person if it is the only weapon being concealed. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, hit that like button and make sure you're subscribed so you know when our next video goes live. If you've got any magic items you would like us to create or think about, please let us know in the comments below. If you're feeling fruity and want to support us in any other way, we do have a Patreon where you can gain access to all of the D&D battle maps that we create and find out about life behind the green screen, even getting pictures of Loot our Labrador. Thank you to everyone who supports us by watching the videos, liking, commenting, people on Patreon, even people who come and watch us live stream on Twitch. Thank you so much for your support. We really, really do appreciate it. So until next time, may your dice be ever in your favour.